Okay. Hi, I didn't expect a recorded voice talking over me. So my name is Jason Snape. I am an illustrator. I'm a graphic designer. I teach at Georgia State, and I wanted to show you some aspects of my technique and how I do my artwork. Um, Let me get to my right slide here, and I'm hoping this takes about 20, maybe 30 minutes. So let me share screen. All right, let me share screen. There we go. All right. Um, so I am, let's see, there. Okay. I'm an illustrator designer. Like I said, teach at Georgia State. I work in my sketchbooks. I've got my 30 years worth of sketchbooks right now. I'm on number 30. And I do all my work there. It's my playground. I don't care what people think. I'll show it to anybody. I try anything. Um, that is where I am most at home. So me working in my sketchbooks and then having to figure out a way to get my work out of the sketchbooks so that I can treat it with color, put it together into book forms or posters or whatnot has been one of my earliest challenges with working in sketchbooks. Um, so I work in my sketchbooks, I scan it in, and then I usually work digitally with color. Sometimes I watercolor, but for the most part, I work with my line and then I import it and go from there. Um, this is some of the stuff that's in my sketchbooks. I do like messing around with snowmen. Um, I don't know what this page is. It's some random things. Sometimes there's color in there. A lot of the times I just work black and white though. It's just literally a playground. Um, but what I wanted to do is show you 3 different examples of projects not projects I've done, illustrations I've done and how I kind of go about them. Um, the simplest thing was so revelatory to me when I was trying to try to figure out how to get my artwork from my sketchbooks into the computer. Um, that you may be very familiar with it already because the computer's been around a good while now. I discovered this probably 20 years ago now. Um, but it allows me the flexibility of working on the page, which I'm much more comfortable with than drawing on the computer. And then allows me to work on the computer for color, which usually takes me longer to figure out how I want the colors to work together. Um, so I've got some flexibility with it. Um, so the first one I want to talk about is called Flood. It was a project in which I wanted to do something with Noah. Um, so my interest is usually exaggeration and kind of nonsense. You can ignore Abraham Lincoln over here. He's not very well done, and I don't know what he's there for. But that's what happens in my sketchbooks. Stuff just shows up unexpectedly sometimes. So this is the starting point for Flood. I wanted Noah in a very small boat. I wanted it overloaded with animals, and I was interested in just kind of this juxtaposition of scale and kind of a lot of different varieties of shapes of animals. I wasn't caught up into having to have 2 of every one. The concept of shoving a whole bunch of things into a very small space and Noah just kind of enduring this was the kind of the thing I was most interested in. So this is just a bunch of different directions I explored stylistically. How am I going to treat the waves? How will I treat the boat? I was very caught up in also how do I show this curve of the boat? Which direction should Noah be, facing? Because if he's a rowboat, you're actually facing away from the direction you're going. Does it matter what direction he's going from an illustration standpoint of us as the viewer? Um, Also then trying to look at waves. You can see how the curve of the boat keeps changing. I keep trying to figure out which way. I liked how it kind of alluded to the bigger sense of the boat without having to show it all. And then how that curve related to the other curves of the animals, of the waves, things like that. I didn't like head on. Symmetry is not something I enjoy very much. So this was just kind of annoying and felt shorthanded. Something you'll see, trying to see if, yep, uh, this rhino has showed up to the left of Noah here, and he has not moved for the whole series of sketches. I'm not sure what that's about, but there's something I really liked about this big rhino kind of just with his lip lingering over the edge of the boat through all of these sketches. And he doesn't really move. These were some more, just trying to figure out what expression he has, which direction his head's turning, trying to figure out, again, which curve or arc worked best for this. And then starting to pile in some more animals, starting to feel how they fill that space and counterbalance each other. So that's just kind of how it kept adding up. It reached this point. This is all done in pencil. At this stage, when I was doing illustrations, everything was inked. So even if I penciled it and got to this point, I wasn't confident in the pencil line working when I got it in the computer. So I would always ink it afterwards. I've tried not to do that as much lately in the last few years because I really like the feel of the line from pencil. Ink, I've gotten away from this style that I used to do. That it's so sterile. There's things I like about it because it's very clean, but I also miss the texture. So I really like the kind of the texture and gesture and all this pencil line. And then here's the inked. This is scanned, so you see bits of color. Well, I'm going to go in a minute to show you how I work this in Photoshop. You can see how much cleaner all the line is. So basically, I would ink it and then scan this from my sketchbook page into Photoshop. And then here's kind of where the mind bending happened for me. And that was somebody said, so I spent all this time trying to basically color this in. If you color over top of this, my interest was in not messing with my lines. I like the ink soaks into the page and it's got this nice organicness to it. It's not very perfect. If you've ever worked with vector, you know how clean that is, and I tend to hate how clean that feels, even though this is pretty clean. But basically, I was trying to figure out how to either would color colors on top of this, which would mess with my line quality, or I would try to erase it and then color in that space or behind this layer, which also messed with the integrity of my line. So finally, somebody very generously said, up here in your layers, there's called blending modes. And if all you do is go and take there's my layer with my paper, see it's all white. And I call this the original layer or original copy or whatever. All you have to do is take that and click on multiply right there. And all the white becomes transparent. And that was the most amazing gift. I can't remember who told me about it. I think it was probably a student of mine. That was the biggest gift I've ever had in my life, just about, aside from my wife, my children. But that was just mind bending because now I didn't have to fuss with all the line and my line, or fuss with all the white space. And now my integrity of my line remained, and I was just basically coloring. So my technique is not very highbrow at all. I'm going to show you what this looks like here. Now I'm in Illustrator here, so you can see over here, we've got all my layers. And now, see, I'm going to go ahead and do this. So there's my copy, it's white, and if I change the multiply, it just reveals all the color that's behind it. So basically, I just color these in. It's very low tech and not very sophisticated, right? And then I just break it all up into things, right? There's a raccoon right there, giraffe spots. And mostly this allows me to kind of experiment with what colors I want to have work together. You can see already I let go earlier on having the elephant be gray because I wanted the sky to be gray and the clouds to be gray. So I made them purple. So this allows me to kind of flex back and forth and figure out what works and what I like about the counterbalance of all these colors, because I don't think of color very, I guess, intuitively. It's kind of a chore for me, and I've gotten more efficient at it, but it's still something that I'm not necessarily stressed about, but I need to give it a good amount of attention and back and forth. So me being able to edit it easily has been something that made illustration more pleasurable and less stressful. So that's Flood, and you can see it's all broken into pieces. And this is a roughly 12 by 9 by 12 print. So, all right, so that is Flood. My next one is called Oz Doorman. This one started to a stage. So these three different projects are kind of three different stages of the arc of my illustration too. Oz Doorman was where I was kind of leaving I wasn't inking things anymore, or trying to do more where I left the pencil so it had a nice texture to it, had more gestural, natural feel. It wasn't quite so stiff. So as Doorman, I don't remember where most of my ideas for these projects came from. But basically, I wanted to try to do a little bit of a re-theme of not Wonderland, Wizard of Oz. So I started off with, for whatever reason, the lion. I had this lion, and I wanted him to be clearly afraid of something, and he was afraid of this little ladybug down here. And then the idea was, okay, they're at the door of the Emerald City, and they're trying to get in. So he's holding up Dorothy, who will be about to ring the doorbell, and maybe there's a guy looking out, that kind of thing. So, but again, this is kind of the richness, and what I like about working in my sketchbooks is that I am free to kind of just do stuff. I'm not hung up at all. It's very non-judgmental. So I'm just drawing things, and then I go back and edit, and that's what I've always liked about, also liked working on the computer for myself, is that if I don't like the composition or the figures, I'll just draw them again and scan them in and position them and all that sort of thing. So it's the forgiveness of that, compared to when I do watercolor. I love the texture of watercolor. I'm not a terribly good watercolorist, so it's a very stressful exercise. And I wish I could get better at it, and I just haven't been able to commit the time to it to become more comfortable with it. So this is my tool, basically out of my weaknesses of, being able to draw things well once, or get the composition dead right, or to get my colors dead right. So I need that editing ability. So anyways, here's where we are. I like the lion a lot. I did not like Dorothy. There's something that felt stiff and awkward and not very fun about her. So I drew her again, give her a little more character. And how she's got glasses. There's Toto. She's got a backpack. I liked her posture a little better. And you see, I just kind of positioned her so that I felt like I would be able to slide her in digitally into the lion's hands. The thing that amused me about this whole thing was the Emerald City, and the idea of, well, everything's emerald. So kind of this, they're trying to get into the Emerald City, and they're going to meet a doorman. The doorman doesn't let them in. So I kind of had this in the back of my head, this sense of, well, that's the Emerald City. They don't want any other colors. So this sign with all these kind of addendums to it that says no yellow, red, blue, pink, aqua, black, mint, brown, taupe, gray, purple. I mean, it was just a way of listing, here's the colors that we're not interested in. So there's that, and then I wanted to kind of, like I said, retheme things. So I have the Tin Man. He's kind of this knight, and there's the head of the. Zoom in a little bit. There's the head of the doorman looking out his little door. I had an idea for the Scarecrow to be sort of this businessman. I don't know, just loose ideas of things. Oops, that's the next one. So for here, again, the same thing. They're in my sketchbook. They're scattered all over the place. So I scan them, bring them into Photoshop, and then here, you can see I had this tall. I really wanted to work with this tall, narrow kind of space. So I laid this out a little differently. If you're familiar with Photoshop, you can group things together like layers. It's kind of anal retentive. It's not, I don't think, probably as intuitive as Procreate works, but I haven't really used Procreate. But from an organizational standpoint, that allowed me to kind of, there's the briefcase of the Scarecrow right down here. So, but that allows me to, now I can move it. I can, position it wherever I want if I want to change compositionally. If I open up this folder, you'll see that the briefcase, I put all these things together. There's the briefcase, which is the line art, see? And then the shadows, and then the color. So every single one of these folders, and I can't remember why I did this. I think it was because I was still trying to work out composition. So whereas in Flood, all the artwork was on one layer here. See if I turn off all the lines, that's what we have left, right? Whereas in Flood, I left all the line on one layer. In the Doorman, Oz Doorman, I broke it all up literally into different, sections. So here's the artwork, the line art, the shadows, the greens, right? I put them all separately. And I haven't done that a lot. That's very laborious, even for me. But I think it was because I wanted to kind of be able to move my composition around a little bit if I need to. Here's the Tin Man. Oh, why is he up off the ground? Must have moved something. Oh, I bet it doesn't matter. I think I put something in front of him. Oh no, look at okay, I don't know if you can read this. I have Tin Man and then Tin Man taller. So it's clear that I wanted his head up higher and I had to adjust something. So that's actually kind of funny. So that's a good way that I can edit things too, is I just stretched out his legs a little bit. All right, so Tin Man taller is around. There's a Straw Man. Again, we have highlights. I don't know where there's highlights. Shadows, straw. Oh, that's the pencil line art for a straw, and then the ribbon. I don't know what that is. Okay. Okay. You probably get the idea. I don't need to do this with everything, but you see as I fill it all in, there's a lion. You see here how I had replaced him with a different Dorothy. There's the new Dorothy. The ladybug is down here under the lion. Okay. And see, this is what I love. This is this kind of the texture and quality of the line is what I always wanted to preserve when I was taking my stuff from my sketchbook in. So, and then the doorman himself. So there's the door knob, the door hanger, which is attached to his hat, which is sticking out of that door there. So something else I would like to point out is because of this great tool. Oh, it's gone. Previously, I had two different skies in here because I was trying to figure out which blue, and I like to show people what a just mind-blowing difference it made to change that sky color. Actually, I'll just do it here for a second, very briefly. So I just made a copy of the sky, and I'm going to make it slightly. Okay, so here's the blue that I have currently. I'm going to make it a little bit deeper and a little bit kind of grayer, and we'll just replace it and see what happens. Okay, now, I mean, it does make all the colors of the figures pop forward. I'm kind of, I like a lighter blue, a more optimistic, kind of brighter blue. That is pretty interesting. So this is stuff that I'm not, as many years as I've been doing this, I don't have a good eye for knowing what exactly is going to happen. So this is what I love, is being able to just keep, let me try another color and see what happens if I make it, you know, a little bit brighter, like that. Okay, so now we have that blue, which is softer, and then that one's a little more intense, and then that one's a little flatter. Okay, this is what I love. This is how I learn, and this is how I teach my students: is compare things. It's you learn so much more by comparing something rather than going, "Is this the right blue?" I don't know. I don't have anything to compare it to. So, all right. So that's Oz Doorman. Let's see. My last section is on pig aviation. This is this project I've worked on and off with for a very long time. It's amuses me to no end, and I keep trying to reconfigure it, and it's kind of this ongoing, oh, I don't know what you call it. It's just always ongoing. Anyhow, pig aviation is the next kind of phase of the ways I've been illustrating. And this is pencil, but I've been using these watercolor brushes that are included in Photoshop now. And this guy called Kyle, who gave this great workshop for us. I hope you were part of that. He was fantastic. He developed all these great brushes. I mean, like hundreds of brushes. It's ridiculous how many there are. I use about these 8, right? A basic 80, that's the one I use for almost everything. But basically, it's again the same thing. Here's my pencil layer. Okay, you see it turned off just about everything, right? And then I've got my layers for the different things. So there's the obstacles. Oops, there's the catapult color. Here's the startup ramp color. And in here is, there's the stump. And here's 1 ramp and 2 ramps. And there's the pig shadow and then the pig color. Okay, just basically the same thing. Because I've been working on a lot of pages, because I was hoping to make this into a book, I've got this color palette that I copy and paste into each layer. so I can keep my colors consistent. I just use the picker to pick them, so I can turn those on and off. I also started typing in the brushes I use because I lose track of which brushes I'm using. Like I said, there's so many of Kyle's brushes. He gave a great tip that in Photoshop you can start work with libraries to keep things consistent between files, which I've never tried before. Anyhow, so that's kind of how that works. And I just have a couple different examples of the way I've worked with these illustrations. So this is another one for public service. So Piggy Aviation, once you become a cadet aviator, you go and you serve the human population, and you can go serve the animal population. This is serving the animal population. There's search and rescue. And there are different kind of badges and markings depending on what they do. It looks like this was a scout, and this was I think this is airlift. We have food donations, helping those who maybe are in drought or somewhere where they can't get food. This is, I think that's the quartermaster. Defend the weak. And that's a, I think that's, what is that? Maybe it's a scout, not a scout. Recon, maybe. So the other thing I wanted to point out that I made a wonderful discovery of is, again, from a color standpoint, was for this project, I started using, instead of grays or blacks, transparency for shadows, I started using this purple. And I loved it. I'm probably beating it to death, and it's probably not, I should probably change it, but I just really loved that it started to create these other interesting dynamics with colors I was using. It was more rich. It gave this nice energy to my work. So I really enjoyed that. It's very surprising how satisfying it can be to just put a stripe of a color as part of an illustration and feel how it acts with all the other colors. The last one I was going to show is this, which is my introduction to the Pig Air Corps. What I loved about it is the point of view. I really like kind of trying to do different angles and things. So this one, again, all the pencils on one layer. I did this wash in the very background right here. And then I did a mask for all these sections. And then, as always, I just started coloring everything in. There's all the pigs. And then there's the trough. You see, I'll do the trough in different layers in case I wanted to change the colors. There's the palette over there, and there's a barrel. There's a barrel copy. Some shadows, there's ramp. So it just is all filling in. So my favorite part about this was just this squadron of pigs flying overhead, and they're just looking up in awe and admiration at these heroes flying by. So this just tickled me to no end. So, all right, that's pretty much my story. Again, it's not a very highbrow technique. It's just a way of working with line and then layering color behind it. And hope you enjoyed it. And thanks very much. Take care. Bye.